The billionaire laughed so hard the crowd laughed with him. A Rolls-Royce sat dead in the middle of Fifth Avenue, its hood open, steam curling into the cold New York air. December wind bit at the faces of everyone standing around it. Suits surrounded the car like guards. Phones were raised. Cameras rolling. And standing in front of it was a 7-year-old boy in oversized sneakers. "I can fix this," the boy said. Elliot Grange bent down, smirking. His Rolex caught the winter sun. His teeth were too white. His cologne probably cost more than most people's rent. "Kid, do you even know what a car is?" The crowd chuckled. Someone in the back muttered, "Whose kid is this?" The boy didn't flinch. He looked past Grange, straight at the engine. Steam still rose from under the hood. The mechanics hired by Grange stood off to the side, arms crossed, waiting for the tow truck they'd already called. "It's not the battery," the boy said calmly. "It's overheating the fuel sensor." The laughter stopped. Not completely, but enough. Grange's smile tightened. He glanced back at his team. One of the engineers frowned. Another tilted his head. "What did you just say?" Grange asked. The boy didn't repeat himself. He just stood there, small and still, his backpack hanging off one shoulder. The strap was broken. Duct tape held it together. A woman near the front whispered, "Is this for real?" Grange straightened up. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was annoyed. "Look, kid. I don't know what YouTube video you watched, but this is a Rolls-Royce Phantom. It costs more than your entire block. So why don't you? The sensor thinks it's hotter than it is," the boy interrupted. "It's confused." One of the engineers stepped closer. "Wait. Say that again." Grange shot him a look. The boy kept his eyes on the engine. "The cooling delay is too long. It waits when it shouldn't." The engineer's face changed. Just slightly. But it changed. Grange waved a hand. "All right, this is ridiculous. Someone get him out of here." Security moved forward. The boy didn't move. "If you start it now," he said quietly, "it'll stall again." Grange stared at him. Then he laughed again. Louder this time. Forced. "You know what? Fine. Let's entertain this." He walked to the driver's side, yanked the door open, and slid in. The crowd pressed closer. Phones angled for better shots. Grange turned the key. The engine coughed. Sputtered. Tried to catch. Then died. Silence. Complete silence. Someone gasped. Grange sat frozen in the driver's seat, staring at the dashboard. His jaw tightened. His knuckles went white on the steering wheel. The boy took a step forward. "Wait 1 minute," he said. "Then try." Grange looked at him through the windshield. Not laughing now. Not smiling. Just staring. The crowd held its breath. 60 seconds felt like an hour. Most people watching didn't understand what just happened. But they felt it. That shift. That moment when arrogance meets something it can't buy. If you've ever been underestimated, you know that feeling. Subscribe now, because what happens next changes everything. His name was Miles Calder. 7 years old. Too small for his age. Brown jacket 2 sizes too big. Jeans with a patch on the knee his mother sewed herself. He lived with her in a one-room apartment in Brownsville, Brooklyn. She cleaned offices at night. He waited up for her, doing homework on the floor, listening to engines in his head. That morning, Miles had walked with her partway to work before heading to school. They never made it far. Traffic froze. The Rolls-Royce stalled across 2 lanes. People gathered. Someone whispered the name Elliot Grange, billionaire investor, tech mogul, everywhere on TV. Miles heard the engine cough. He heard something wrong. So he stepped forward. Now he stood in front of 50 people, waiting. Grange still sat in the driver's seat. His hand hovered over the ignition. His face was stone. One of the engineers checked his watch. 40 seconds. Miles didn't move. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look smug. He just looked certain. "Where did you learn this?" the engineer asked. Miles reached into his backpack. Not toys. Not snacks. A notebook. Small. Worn. The corners bent. Pages stained with oil and pencil smudges. He opened it. The pages were filled with drawings. Diagrams. Arrows connecting parts. Numbers in the margins. Notes in cramped handwriting that didn't belong to a child. The engineer leaned closer. His eyes widened. These are sensor flow charts. Miles nodded. My dad taught me. Grange's head snapped toward them. Your dad? Yes. And what does your dad do? Miles hesitated. Just for a second. He used to fix engines. Used to? Miles closed the notebook. He died. The crowd shifted. Someone coughed. A woman in the back covered her mouth. Grange's expression didn't change. I'm sorry to hear that. But that doesn't make you an expert. I didn't say I was an expert, Miles said. I said I can fix this. Time, the engineer said quietly. Grange turned the key. The engine caught immediately. Smooth. Perfect. No cough. No sputter. It purred. The crowd erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Phones raised higher. Someone screamed, "Oh my God." Grange sat there, hands still on the wheel, staring straight ahead. The engineer grabbed the notebook from Miles' hands. Miles let him take it. Where did you get these diagrams? The engineer demanded. My dad drew them. What was his name? Thomas Calder. The engineer froze. Another man stepped forward. Older. Gray hair. Expensive suit. He looked at the notebook. Then at Miles. Thomas Calder, he repeated slowly. Miles nodded. The man's face went pale. Grange climbed out of the car. He walked over, snatched the notebook, and flipped through it. His face was unreadable. This is impressive, he said flatly. But it doesn't mean anything. It means he knew, Miles said. Knew what? How to make them work right. Grange closed the notebook. He handed it back to Miles. His smile returned. Cold this time. You're a smart kid. I'll give you that. But smart doesn't pay bills. I'm not asking for money. Then what are you asking for? Miles looked up at him. 7 years old. Oversized sneakers. Broken backpack strap. I'm asking you to remember his name. Grange stared at him. Then he laughed. Not loud. Just a short, sharp exhale through his nose. I meet 1,000 people a year, kid. I don't remember names. He turned and walked toward his car. The crowd parted. Miles stood there, holding his notebook. The engineer stayed behind. He crouched down to Miles' level. Your father, he said quietly. Did he work for Holton Systems? Miles nodded. The man's face twisted. Something between guilt and recognition. I worked there too, he said. Before it got bought out. By who? The man glanced at Grange's car. Then back at Miles. By him. The pieces were falling into place. But most people watching this video still don't know the full story. If you want the truth, you need to see what happens next. Subscribe before you lose track, because this gets darker. Miles walked home alone that day. His mother was still at work. She wouldn't be back until after midnight. So he sat on the floor of their apartment, notebook open, redrawing one of his father's diagrams from memory. The pencil moved slowly. Carefully. Outside, the city hummed. Sirens. Voices. The subway rumbling beneath the street. Inside, Miles was quiet. He didn't think about the crowd. He didn't think about the cameras. He thought about the engine. The way it sounded. The way it hesitated before catching. His father used to say machines didn't lie. People lied. Machines just broke. But they always told you why. Miles flipped to a new page. He started sketching the Rolls-Royce engine from memory. He didn't have all the details. But he had enough. At 11:47 p.m., his mother came home. She looked tired. She always looked tired. But tonight, something else was in her face. Fear. Miles, she said quietly. We need to talk. Miles closed the notebook. She sat down beside him on the floor. Her hands were shaking. A woman stopped me outside the building tonight, she said. She showed me a video. Miles didn't say anything. It was you. Standing in the street. Talking to Elliot Grange. She pulled out her phone. The screen was cracked. But the video played fine. Miles watched himself on the screen. Small. Calm. Surrounded by people. Baby, his mother whispered. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't think it mattered. It matters. She closed her eyes. Took a breath. Your father worked on systems like that. Fuel sensors. Thermal regulation. He designed half of them. I know. Do you know what happened to his work? Miles looked at her. It got taken, he said. His mother nodded. When Holton Systems got bought, all the patents were reassigned. Your father fought it. He tried to keep his name on them. But he couldn't. No. He couldn't. She touched his face. Her hand was warm. He died trying, Miles. The stress. The fights. The lawyers. It killed him. Miles didn't cry. He just sat there, holding his notebook. I know, he said softly. His mother pulled him close. They sat like that for a long time. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, the world felt very still. The video hit 1 million views by morning. By noon, it was 5 million. By evening, engineers across the country were pausing the clip, zooming in on the notebook, recognizing the diagrams. Someone posted a side-by-side comparison. On the left, Miles' notebook. On the right, a patent filed in 2019. Inventor, Thomas Calder. Reassigned to Grange Dynamics LLC. The comments exploded. Wait, this is stolen work. That's the dead guy's kid. Grange is a fraud. Someone needs to investigate this. By the next morning, reporters were calling Grange's office. He released a statement at 10 a.m. I have no knowledge of any connection between myself and Thomas Calder. This is a tragic coincidence being exploited for clicks. The internet didn't buy it. At 6 p.m., a black Rolls-Royce pulled up outside Miles' building in Brownsville. Neighbors stopped. Watched. A man in a dark suit stepped out. He walked to the front door. Knocked. Miles' mother opened it. The man handed her an envelope. Mr. Grange wanted me to deliver this personally, he said. Then he left. Miles' mother closed the door. Her hands were shaking again. She opened the envelope. Inside was a check. $50,000. And a contract. 1 page. Simple language. It said, in exchange for the sum above, the undersigned agrees to refrain from any further public statements regarding Thomas Calder, Holton Systems, or Grange Dynamics LLC. At the bottom, a line for her signature. Miles stood behind her, reading over her shoulder. Mom, he said quietly. Dad didn't sign either. 60 seconds. That's how long it took for the engine to reset. That's how long it takes for your life to change. If you don't subscribe now, you'll miss the moment that breaks this whole thing open. Thomas Calder used to work at night. Not in a garage. Not in a shop. In the kitchen. Miles would sit at the table, coloring, while his father spread blueprints across the counter. The apartment always smelled like coffee and oil. Thomas wasn't loud. He didn't yell. He didn't complain. He just worked. Come here, Miles, he'd say. Miles would climb onto the chair beside him. Thomas would point at the blueprints. See this? This is a fuel sensor. It tells the engine when it's too hot. What happens if it's wrong? Then the engine stops. Or it breaks. Can you fix it? Thomas smiled. I can make it so it doesn't lie. Miles watched his father draw. Arrows. Numbers. Connections between parts that didn't make sense yet. Why do people make them wrong? Miles asked. They don't mean to. They just don't listen carefully enough. Listen to what? The machine. It'll tell you what's wrong. You just have to be quiet. Miles remembered that. He remembered the way his father's hand moved. Steady. Certain. He remembered the diagrams. The notes in the margins. The solutions that no one else thought of. And he remembered the day everything changed. Miles was 6. His father came home late. Later than usual. His face was tight. His jaw clenched. "Tom," his mother said. "What happened?" Thomas sat down at the table. He didn't say anything for a long time. "They reassigned the patents," he finally said. "What?" "Holton got bought. Everything I worked on. Every sensor. Every system. They took my name off." His mother's face went pale. "Can they do that?" "They already did." "But you filed them. You designed them." "Doesn't matter. I signed a contract when I got hired. Anything I create belongs to the company." "But you didn't create it for them. You created it before, they don't care." Thomas put his head in his hands. Miles sat in the corner, holding his coloring book, listening. "I'm going to fight it," Thomas said quietly. His mother touched his shoulder. "Tom, we can't afford a lawyer." "I don't care. We have rent. We have Miles. I don't care." He looked up at her. His eyes were red. "If I don't fight this, it means I never existed. Every system I designed. Every improvement I made. It'll all have someone else's name on it." His mother didn't say anything. Thomas stood. He walked to the counter. He picked up one of the blueprints. "I'm not letting them erase me," he said. He fought for 8 months. Meetings with lawyers who worked for free. Letters sent and ignored. Calls that went unanswered. The stress ate at him. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. He worked later and later, redrawing systems, documenting everything, trying to prove the designs were his. Miles watched him fade. One night, Thomas collapsed. "Heart attack," the doctors said. He died 3 days later. At the funeral, no one from Holton Systems came. No one from Grange Dynamics. No one who used his designs. Just his family. A few friends. A co-worker who cried the whole time. Miles stood beside his mother, holding her hand, staring at the casket. He didn't cry. He just listened. To the silence. Now, standing in the apartment, staring at the check and the contract, Miles remembered all of it. His mother held the paper in her hands. Her face was unreadable. $50,000, she whispered. That's more than I make in a year." Miles said nothing. "We could pay rent for the next 2 years. I could stop working nights. You could." "Dad didn't sign," Miles said again. His mother looked at him. "I know," she said. "But your father's dead, Miles. That doesn't mean he was wrong." She closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I can't fight them," she said. "I'm not strong like he was." "You don't have to fight." "Then what do I do?" Miles looked at the contract. Then at the check. "You don't sign," he said. His mother stared at him. 7 years old. Small. Calm. "If we don't sign," she said slowly, "they'll come after us. Lawyers. Media. They'll make our lives hell." Maybe. Miles picked up his notebook from the floor. He opened it to the first page. His father's handwriting. Neat. Certain. "Listen carefully," Miles said, repeating his father's words. "They'll tell you the truth." His mother didn't understand. But she didn't sign. Not that night. Some people think $50,000 is a lot. Others know there are things you can't buy. If you don't subscribe, you'll never know which one wins. Don't get left behind. The next morning, Miles' mother didn't go to work. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at her phone. The unsigned contract lay beside her. The check sat on top of it. Miles ate cereal slowly, watching her. "What are we going to do?" she finally asked. Miles didn't answer right away. He finished his cereal. Rinsed the bowl. Set it in the sink. Then he said, "We're going to show people." "Show them what?" "Everything." His mother shook her head. "Miles, we can't fight Elliot Grange. He has lawyers. Money. Power. We don't need to fight him." "Then what?" Miles picked up his notebook. "We just need to tell the truth." At 9:47 a.m., Miles' mother went live on Facebook. She didn't rehearse. She didn't prepare a speech. She just turned on her phone's camera and started talking. "My name is Dana Calder," she said. My husband was Thomas Calder. He died 2 years ago. Her voice shook. But she kept going. Yesterday, my son Miles fixed a car on 5th Avenue. A lot of you saw the video. A lot of you shared it. She held up the check. Last night, Elliot Grange sent us this. $50,000. And a contract that says we have to stay quiet about my husband's work. She set the check down. Picked up the contract. My husband designed fuel sensor systems. Thermal regulators. Safety protocols. He filed patents. He put his name on them. Her voice cracked. Then his company got bought. And his name got erased. She held up Miles' notebook. The camera focused on the pages. The diagrams. The notes in Thomas's handwriting. This is his work. These are his designs. And this, she pulled out her phone. Scrolled. Found what she was looking for. A screenshot of a patent filing. Inventor, Thomas Calder. Date filed, March 2019. Status, reassigned to Grange Dynamics LLC, September 2019. This is what they took from him. She looked directly into the camera. My husband fought to keep his name on his work. It killed him. The stress. The lawyers. The letters that went ignored. She paused. Elliot Grange wants us to take this money and disappear. He wants us to pretend my husband never existed. Dana Calder set the contract down. We're not signing. She ended the video. Within an hour, the video had 10,000 views. Within 3 hours, 100,000. By evening, 2 million. The comments poured in. This is theft. Someone needs to investigate Grange. How many other people did he do this to? That kid is a genius and they tried to silence him. News outlets picked it up. Local first. Then national. CNN ran a segment at 6 p.m. A viral video has sparked questions about patent law and corporate ethics. Tonight, we're looking into the story of Thomas Calder, a systems engineer whose work may have been taken by billionaire Elliot Grange. They showed clips. The Rolls-Royce. Miles explaining the sensor. Dana holding up the contract. Legal experts weighed in. If Mr. Calder filed these patents before the acquisition, there may be grounds for a lawsuit. The reassignment process is legal, but ethically questionable. This could open the door to federal investigation. By midnight, Elliot Grange's office released another statement. We are reviewing internal records related to the Holton Systems acquisition. We take these allegations seriously and are cooperating fully with any inquiries. The internet wasn't satisfied. Sponsors began pulling out. 3 companies announced they were ending partnerships with Grange Dynamics. Tech blogs dug deeper. They found more patents. More reassignments. More names erased. Thomas Calder wasn't the only one. On the 3rd day, the FBI opened an investigation. Not into patent theft, that was civil. Into fraud. Because someone found an email. Dated October 2019. From Elliot Grange to his legal team. Subject, Holton Systems cleanup. Body, make sure all individual contributor names are scrubbed from filings. We don't need ghosts coming back later. The email leaked on Twitter at 2 p.m. By 3 p.m., it was everywhere. Grange's lawyers went silent. His PR team stopped responding. His board called an emergency meeting. Miles and his mother watched it all from their apartment. The views. The comments. The news coverage. Dana sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, crying. Not from sadness. From relief. He would be so proud of you, she whispered. Miles sat beside her, holding his notebook. I just listened, he said. Like Dad taught me. His mother pulled him close. Outside, the city kept moving. But inside, something had shifted. The truth was louder than the money. Most people don't know that one email can destroy an empire. Most don't realize the truth always finds a way out. If you're not subscribed, you're watching the wrong story. Don't be late. Elliot Grange held a press conference on the 5th day. It was held at Grange Dynamics headquarters in Manhattan. The room was packed. Cameras everywhere. Reporters shouting questions before he even reached the podium. Grange looked tired. His suit was perfect. His hair was perfect. But his face was drawn. His eyes were tight. He cleared his throat. I want to address the recent allegations regarding Thomas Calder and the Holton Systems acquisition. Silence. First, I want to say that I deeply regret any pain this situation has caused the Calder family. Losing a loved one is never easy, and I understand that grief can— Did you steal his patents? Someone shouted. Grange's jaw tightened. I did not personally reassign any patents. That process was handled by our legal team in accordance with standard acquisition protocols. So you're blaming your lawyers? I'm saying the process was legal. Legal doesn't mean ethical, another reporter called out. Grange paused. Took a breath. You're right, he said. Legal doesn't always mean right. The room went quiet. After reviewing internal communications, I've discovered that several decisions made during the Holton acquisition did not reflect the values I want my company to represent. He looked directly at the camera. Thomas Calder was a brilliant engineer. His work contributed significantly to fuel sensor technology. And his name should have remained on those patents. Murmurs rippled through the room. Effective immediately, I am stepping down as CEO of Grange Dynamics. Gasps. I am also directing my legal team to restore Thomas Calder's name to all relevant patents and to establish a settlement fund for his family and any other engineers whose work was similarly affected. More shouting. More questions. Grange raised a hand. That's all I have to say. He walked off the podium. Cameras flashed. Reporters surged forward. But he was already gone. Miles and his mother watched the press conference on their cracked phone screen. When it ended, Dana sat very still. Did that just happen? She whispered. Miles nodded. She covered her mouth with her hand. Tears streamed down her face. He said your father's name, she said. On television. In front of everyone. Miles didn't cry. But his chest felt tight. He had to, Miles said quietly. His mother looked at him. What do you mean? If he didn't, everyone would know he was lying. Dana wiped her eyes. She pulled Miles close. You did this, she said. You made them listen. Miles shook his head. Dad did this. I just reminded them. The settlement came 3 weeks later. Not just for the Calders. For 12 other families. Engineers whose names had been erased. Whose patents had been reassigned. Whose work had been buried under corporate acquisitions. Some of them were alive. Some were dead. All of them were forgotten. Until now. The total settlement was $8 million. The Calders received $600,000. It wasn't about the money. It never was. But it meant Dana could stop working nights. It meant Miles could stay in school. It meant they could breathe. More importantly, it meant Thomas Calder's name was restored. Every patent. Every filing. Every system he designed. His name was back. Miles kept the notebook. He didn't need to anymore. The diagrams were online now. Archived. Preserved. But he kept it anyway. Because it wasn't about the diagrams. It was about the handwriting. The notes in the margins. The proof that his father existed. One afternoon, Miles sat on the floor of their apartment, flipping through the pages. His mother sat beside him. What are you thinking about? She asked. Miles ran his finger over one of the drawings. A fuel sensor. Arrows connecting parts. I'm thinking about what Dad said. What did he say? Miles looked up at her. He said machines don't lie. People do. His mother nodded slowly. But people can tell the truth too, Miles said. If someone listens. Dana touched his face. You listened. Miles closed the notebook. Yeah, he said. I did. Signatures mean everything. Your father's. Your own. The one you refuse to give. If you don't subscribe now, you'll never know which signature changes your life. 6 months later, Miles turned 8. His mother threw him a small party. A few kids from school. Cake from the corner bakery. Balloons that kept losing air. Miles didn't mind. He was happy. But something else happened that day. A package arrived. No return address. Just his name and their apartment number. Dana opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. And a check. The letter was from an attorney representing the families of the other 11 engineers. It read, "Dear Miles, we wanted to thank you. Because of your courage, our loved ones' names have been restored. Some of them are still alive and can finally see their work recognized. Some of them are gone, but their families now know the truth. You didn't just save your father's legacy. You saved 12 others. Enclosed is a contribution from all of us. We want you to use it however you see fit. But we hope you'll remember what you did, and maybe help others like us someday. With gratitude, the families." The check was for $50,000. Dana stared at it. Then at Miles. "What do you want to do with this?" she asked. Miles thought for a long time. Then he said, "I want to make a place where kids can learn." "Learn what?" "How to fix things. How to listen. How to not give up." His mother smiled. "Like your dad taught you." "Yeah. Like Dad." It took 2 years. But they did it. With the settlement money, the donation from the families, and help from the community, they opened a small engineering lab in Brownsville. It wasn't fancy. Just a converted warehouse with workbenches, tools, and donated equipment. But it was real. They called it the Thomas Calder Learning Lab. Kids could come after school. Learn about engines, circuits, sensors, code. Whatever they were curious about. Miles was 10 when it opened. He wasn't a teacher. He was just a kid. But he helped. He showed the younger kids his notebook. He explained his father's diagrams. He taught them to listen, really listen, to the machines. "They'll tell you the truth," he'd say. "You just have to be quiet." The internet never forgot the story. Every few months, someone would repost the original video. The one of Miles standing in front of the Rolls-Royce, calm and small, saying, "I can fix this." The comments were always the same. "This kid is a legend." Elliot Grange got destroyed by a 7-year-old. Never underestimate anyone. News outlets did follow-up pieces. "Where is Miles Calder now?" They interviewed him at the lab. He was older now. Taller. But still quiet. Still observant. "What do you want people to know?" a reporter asked. Miles thought about it. "I want them to know my dad existed," he said. "And that he was right." "Right about what?" "That if you listen carefully, the truth always comes out." Elliot Grange never recovered. He stepped down from 3 boards. Lost 2 major partnerships. His net worth dropped by 40%. But he didn't go to prison. The fraud investigation found enough to embarrass him, but not enough to prosecute. He lived quietly now. Out of the public eye. Some people said he got off easy. Others said losing everything that mattered was punishment enough. Miles didn't think about him much. He was too busy teaching kids how to fix things. One evening, after all the kids had gone home, Miles sat alone in the lab. He opened his notebook. Flipped through the pages. His father's handwriting. Still clear. Still certain. Miles picked up a pencil. On a blank page, he started drawing. Not his father's designs. His own. A new sensor. A better cooling system. Something that didn't exist yet. He worked slowly. Carefully. The way his father taught him. Outside, the city hummed. Sirens. Voices. The subway rumbling beneath the street. Inside, Miles listened. To the machines. To the silence. To the truth. The internet never forgets. But most people do. If you're not subscribed, you're already forgetting this story. Don't let that happen. Miles Calder is 16 now. He still lives in Brownsville. Still carries his father's notebook. The Thomas Calder Learning Lab has grown. They've trained over 200 kids. Some of them are in college now, studying engineering. Some are working in repair shops. Some are teaching others. All of them remember Thomas Calder's name. Miles doesn't do interviews anymore. He turned down a Netflix documentary. He declined a book deal. He's not interested in fame. He's interested in fixing things. Not just engines. Systems. Structures. The broken parts no one else notices. Last year, he testified before a congressional subcommittee on patent law. He was 15. He wore a suit his mother bought him. Too big, like everything used to be. He spoke for 7 minutes. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't get emotional. He just explained, clearly and calmly, how easy it is to erase someone. How corporations do it every day. How legal doesn't always mean right. When he finished, the room was silent. One senator leaned forward. "Son," she said, "what do you want us to do?" Miles looked at her. "I want you to listen," he said. "Really listen. Not to the lobbyists. Not to the lawyers. To the people whose names got erased. And then fix it. So it doesn't happen again." 3 months later, the Thomas Calder Patent Protection Act was introduced. It didn't pass. Not yet. But it's still alive. Still being debated. Because Miles Calder reminded people that some fights take longer than others. And that's okay. As long as you don't stop. People still ask Miles what he's going to do when he grows up. He always gives the same answer. "I'm going to keep fixing things." Like your dad? Yeah. Like my dad. On the anniversary of his father's death, Miles visits the grave. It's in a small cemetery in Queens. Quiet. Trees everywhere. He brings his notebook. He sits on the grass, flips through the pages, and talks. Not out loud. Just in his head. He tells his father about the lab. About the kids. About the ones who are thriving now because someone taught them to listen. He tells him about the bill. About the testimony. About the fight that's still going. And he tells him the truth. "I miss you," Miles says silently. "Every day." He closes the notebook. Stands. Walks back to the subway. The world didn't change overnight. It never does. But it changed. Slowly. Quietly. Because a 7-year-old boy stepped forward when everyone told him to step back. Because he didn't beg. Didn't yell. Didn't give up. He just listened. And fixed what was broken. Never confuse silence with ignorance. Never confuse youth with weakness. And never laugh too quickly at someone who says, "I can fix this." Because they might be the only one who can. Thomas Calder's name is on 17 patents now. His son carries his notebook. His legacy lives in 200 kids who learn to listen. That's not revenge. That's justice. And justice doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be true. If stories like this matter to you, if you believe names should be remembered and truth should win, then subscribe now. Because the next story might be even closer to home than you think. And you don't want to miss it.